right, hi guys. So this recording is for people who are curious about yoga, but have never actually taken a class and aren't familiar with the poses and may get overwhelmed by the names of the poses and you're not sure if you're doing them correctly and you're not ready to go spend 50, 60 bucks a month to go to a studio, but you are curious because you've heard the benefits of yoga and you've heard about how helpful it is to any fitness routine that you may already be doing. So whether you're a runner or a lifter or you take Zumba classes, yoga is going to help you perform better at any other exercise that you're doing. So I really encourage you all to really take up, even if it's just a small basic yoga practice, 15 to 20 minutes a week is really all you need to see and feel the benefits of these yoga poses. So this class is free, and you can come to my website and download it and use it whenever you want. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go over the basic movements of yoga. We'll start with a sun salutation, and I'll break down all the poses and kind of explain to you how to perform them correctly and go over some modifications. And then from the sun salutation poses, we'll go into the 3 warrior poses. So these are the most common poses that you'll find at any yoga class that you go to. So we'll do warrior 1, warrior 2, and warrior 3. So with that, find a space, get on your mat, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so as you can see here, I have my space. This is where I love to do yoga. And we'll start in a standing mountain pose. So I'm going to show you standing mountain pose from both angles. You can bring your feet together. Some instructors will tell you to have your big toes touching or your heels touching. This is fine. If you're more comfortable in standing mountain pose with your feet slightly apart, that is also fine, okay? So from the side angle, notice if you already are a big fitness fanatic, then you know that you should never lock out your knees. Doesn't matter what you're doing, okay? Whatever exercise you're doing, you always want to keep a slight micro bend in the knees. With that, standing mountain pose, you don't have to do anything specific with your core. Just kind of let your hips sit naturally over the knees, shoulders sit naturally over the hips. Okay, you take a big breath in. As you bring your arms up, press the palms together, and then look up towards the hands. Now, oftentimes on social media, you're going to see people doing these crazy, like acrobatic, standing mountain poses. That's not necessary. The whole point of a standing mountain pose is to really just give your body a nice stretch, from fingertips all the way down through the core. Open up the chest as you breathe into the lungs. Press the palms together to start feeling the strength build in your arms. And then just let your body kind of sit naturally wherever it wants to sit here. You can take your gaze up. If that pinches your neck, guess what? You don't have to. You can keep your gaze forward. If it hurts to put your palms together, then don't. Keep them open like goalposts, okay? There really are no rules in yoga. Contrary to what a lot of social media posts will have you believe, the original Vedas, where yoga comes from, contains like 6 yoga poses. That's it. So all these other things that we've added are really not original to the true nature of yoga. But again, going back to standing mountain pose, this gives you a chance to really ground your feet into the earth and just kind of give you a chance to feel settled, all the while reaching up, getting a nice little stretch right here in the core, letting your shoulders sink down into the shoulder sockets. Taking another big breath in and a big breath out. Now for sun salutation, we often go from a standing mountain pose to a forward fold. So in forward fold, you're gonna swan dive the arms out. So you reach those fingertips out as long as you can, keeping the back straight. That's the really important thing here, is you don't wanna like do this thing. So you wanna keep your back straight as you come forward. And how do you do that? You engage the core, right? So you pull the abs in nice and tight, contract all these core muscles because that helps to protect the lower back. As you're hinging from the hips, keeping a slight bend in the knees, and then you come into your forward fold, all right? Now, a number of variations here. If you can't touch the floor, bend your knees. That's completely fine. Another option is to get a yoga block. These things are cheap. You can find them everywhere. I often find them in the dollar bin at Target. So you can use a yoga block and let your hands rest on that. Cool thing about the block is that if you have to start up here, that's fine. And the more you practice and the more flexible you get, then it allows you to take the stretch a little further, right? So then you start playing with the block and you place it wherever it feels good for your body to place it. In forward fold, knees bent, using the block or not, you really want to let the head and neck go. So hinging from the hips, bend in the knees, you just kind of let the entire upper body hang here. Notice that you're going to start to get a good stretch in the back of the legs. So you're going to feel it here in the hamstrings. You let all the tension in the shoulders release. You let the head and neck go. And let gravity pull the weight of your head down towards the floor. And that starts to elongate the spine. It feels wonderful. Take a big breath in. Big breath out. Now from here, in sun salutation, again, you'll often go into a flat back. Again, there are a number of variations. So flat back, whoop, I was hanging upside down a little too long. Flat back, you want to keep the flat back, but you also bring the chest up. You kind of look out just a little bit, just to kind of let the blood start to rush away from the head. Here are the options. You can take the hands, place them on the thighs. Keep your back straight, core held in tight. Another option, and the most common one, is to bring the hands to the shins. Okay? Now here, notice you're squeezing the glutes as well as the core. And again, the final option is to bring your fingertips to the mat as you lift your back up. And then from a flat back, you come back to the floor, bend the knees, and then you start to walk the feet back into a downward dog. So again, take another breath in. On the exhale, you walk the feet back to the back end of the mat. And take a little time here to kind of adjust, and do what feels good for you. Feet, I like to keep my feet shoulder width apart. And, give yourself that good stretch. So again, you want to take your hips and press them as high up to the ceiling as possible, all the while taking the heels of your feet, pushing them down into the floor as much as possible. Now, not all people can bring their heels to the floor, and that's fine. You're still getting a really good stretch in the hamstrings, in the calves, and then again, you're kind of pressing the hands in the opposite direction, letting the head and neck just kind of relax in between the shoulders. And then if it feels good, you can even kind of walk the legs out here. Take another big breath in. And big breath out. On the exhale, this is where we go into a plank position. Okay? So in plank, again, hands are right under the shoulders, your back is straight. The option here is to bring the knees to the mat. So from plank position, again, you take a big breath in, and then on the exhale, keeping the core tight, we go into what's called a chaturanga. So in chaturanga, You want to keep those elbows as close to the rib cage as possible as you bring the chest down without letting it rest on the floor. That's the challenge, right? So you're really engaging those tricep muscles. Oh, and it's hard. Even with my hips and my knees on the mat, I can still feel my triceps engaged. So from chaturanga, you inhale and go into an upward dog. All right, so upward dog is amazing. So let me just kind of talk about upward dog a little bit. In upward dog, the fact that you're kind of doing a backward bend in that position really gives, especially that lower spine, a chance to kind of open up and stretch out. And in today's day and age where we spend so much time sitting, right? We're sitting in front of the TV, we're sitting at the computer, we're sitting in the car, a lot of times we start to do this thing, right? The bad posture. So what we're doing when we sit like this, I'll pull my shirt up so just so you can kind of get a better visual, right? So when you're in this position, what's happening to the spine right here? You're really compressing, let me adjust. You're really compressing those vertebrae together, and that's where a lot of our back problems come from. You know, the sciatica, the pinched nerves, bulging discs, you know, those kinds of things, because we spend so much time in this position. So to be in that upward dog, right? So the hands and the elbows are as close to the chest as possible, and you just kind of lift up, and you're reversing that movement that so many of us spend time in. So again, just kind of opening up that lower back. There are a couple things to consider here. So in upward dog, it's really easy to kind of hunch into the shoulders like this. You want to make sure that you're lifting up out of the shoulders and then also pulling them back. So you want to think about opening up your chest as much as possible and taking a big breath in and a big breath out. Now notice how my hips are lifted up off the mat, but if this is too much for you, then you don't have to do that. You can bring the hands out forward just a little bit and then just bring it up as high as is comfortable for you. Now, if you want something a little more challenging in your upward dog, then what you would do is come up, roll your shoulders back, open the chest, notice my feet, and then you lift the hips, the knees, and the shins up off the mat. Again, this is a challenging pose. From here, you tuck the toes underneath, exhale, and come back into your downward dog. From downward dog, we take our gaze up towards the hands, start to walk the feet up towards the front of the mat. Give yourself a second here, and forward fold. Then bend the knees, and we're gonna inhale all the way back up into a standing mountain pose. Looks like this. Press the palms together, exhale, give yourself a second to relax. So that is a complete sun salutation. I hope that I broke the poses down enough for you so that you can kind of understand. And if it helps, think about it as standing mountain, forward fold, flat back, down dog, plank, chaturanga, up dog, down dog again, forward fold, into standing mountain pose. So that's a total of 10 poses in your sun salutation. If you have any questions, please email me or contact me on Facebook. I will gladly answer your questions. With that said, we're going to go through that sun salutation now together a little bit faster. Okay, so in a typical yoga class, this is kind of the pace that you will follow as you go through your sun salutation. So place your feet wherever is comfortable for you. Inhale, arms up, press the palms together. Exhale, all the way into your forward fold. Let the head and neck go. Inhale, come into your flat back. Exhale, hands to the mat. Slowly walk the feet back to your downward dog. Blow all the air out here. Then inhale, come into your plank. Exhale, drop into your chaturanga. You can bring the knees to the mat. Inhale, come into your upward dog. Exhale, tuck the toes underneath, and you're in downward dog again. Take your gaze up, and then start to walk the hands or the feet towards the hands. Inhale, arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. There's a full sun salutation flow. In my classes, I like to do 3 to 5 sun salutations, kind of based on what the goal of the class is. So there are always modifications. And if you sign up for Yoga Body Blast, then know that the routine is meant to get the heart rate up a little bit and to really challenge ourselves physically. So it's a yoga-based class that's more geared towards strength and endurance, okay? So if you take my Yoga Body Blast, you will see that the sun salutations are gonna have a few more modifications. And I'll show you those right now. So you start in standing mountain pose. Exhale, swan dive, all the way to the floor. Inhale, flat back. And then exhale from here, instead of walking the feet back in Yoga Body Blast, we bend the knees, jump them right into a plank. So it's more like a burpee. And you hold the plank for a few breaths, just to challenge ourselves in this plank pose. And of course you can drop the knees in chaturanga, but I encourage you to try to keep them off the mat as we go into the chaturanga, chest off the floor, immediately into your upward dog, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the legs. Exhale, down dog, take your gaze forward, and then we hop the feet up towards the hands. Inhale, and exhale, hands to heart center. So again, that is the breakdown of a sun salutation. So let's go into the warrior poses, because you will often find these in any yoga class that you take. So we'll start with warrior one. Now in warrior one, again, your feet are about hip width apart, slight bend in the knees. We'll take that front leg and step it back into a forward lunge. So in the lunge, notice the knees are facing forward, the hips are facing forward, belly button facing forward, chest and shoulders facing forward. We also do a lot of lunges in Yoga Body Blast. So the difference between a lunge and a warrior one is all in this back foot. So you take that back heel, pivot it towards an angle. So your hips naturally want to open up here. You keep that front thigh bent, but for this to be a warrior one, what you want to do is not open the hips. You want to take the hips, and again, you want to keep them facing forward as much as possible with that back foot angled out. Now you can keep the hands on the hips, or you can bring them up overhead and hold it here. So you really want to sink into that front thigh, engaging all the muscles in that front thigh. But then also notice the stretch in that hip flexor. And again, it should feel so good. Because we spend so much time seated, our hip flexors are often tight and compressed. From warrior one, we often go into a warrior two, which is very easy because all you do now is open up the hips. Notice how that back foot went from an angle to opening all the way out to the side. The front foot stays facing forward, back foot opens up to the side, and now we open up those hips. So now our whole torso is facing the side, arms come out, and then you really sink into that front thigh. This is a warrior two. Let's hold it for a little bit. Just so again, you can feel the strength building in both of those thighs, especially that front one. So you're gonna feel it here in the inner thigh. You're gonna feel that back leg really working hard to keep you in this position. Take a big breath. and exhale. So from here, you can, oftentimes people will cartwheel their arms back down to the floor to go into a lower front lunge, or you'll see this side angle pose a lot too. So what you do in side angle is you can take that front forearm, drop it to the thigh, keeping that leg bent, and then the opposite arm comes up. Very important in side angle not to sink into the shoulders, right? So you want to keep the shoulder pressed into that shoulder socket, lifting the head and neck up out of the shoulder. And the same goes for that extended arm. You don't want to like reach and hyperextend the shoulder joint. You want to keep it locked in, pressed into the shoulder socket. A number of options here, right? So you can keep the forearm on the thigh, or if you have a block, you can use the block here, right? And always challenge yourself with the block to go a little lower. And then eventually you can come all the way to the floor. All right, let's go ahead and pivot that back foot so that it's forward. Now we're in that low lunge. From the low lunge, you can go ahead and bring that back leg in. So we're in a forward fold. Inhale, arms all the way up to standing mountain. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to go into a warrior three, and then we'll finish there. So warrior three, again with the same leg. That front leg is going to kind of go back. So we're really balancing here on that back leg, keeping a slight bend in the knee. A couple ways to do this. Now, warrior three is really challenging. I would call it a more advanced yoga pose. But what you do is you I like to think of myself as a pendulum. And so you slowly start to kind of balance the weight between the torso and the back leg, lifting that back foot up off the mat, and then you can extend the arms behind you, out to the side, or even out in front. And this is warrior three, okay? If you can't get that leg like way up to the sky, like you see most influencers do, that is okay. Most of those influencers are dancers anyways. They're not really even yogis, they're ballerinas. So of course they can do all these crazy contortions. Let's go ahead and hit it on the other side really quick, just to kind of balance out the body. So face the other direction. Take that front foot back. So we're in that front lunge. Everything is facing the front. Inhale, arms overhead. And then on the exhale, take that back heel, let it rest on the mat at an angle, keeping your hips and shoulders facing forward. You can keep the hands on the hips or extend them up. Take another inhale here. On the exhale, we're going to open it up into a warrior two. Take the time to kind of adjust the feet, adjust the hips. You want everything to feel good. Take another inhale. And then exhale, drop that forearm to the thigh and reach up. You can reach straight up or kind of take it over to the side. That'll give you a deeper stretch along the hip flexor and the core. You can stay here, use a block, or challenge yourself and come all the way to the floor. And then from here, cartwheel those arms all the way down to the floor. So we're in a low forward lunge. Take that back foot, step it in. Give yourself a breath here. And then inhale, come all the way up, standing mountain pose. Exhale, hands to heart center. Going into warrior three. I'm going to show you another option into going into warrior three. Take that front knee and just kind of bring it up towards the chest. So you balance here. Really pay attention to the breath. And then on the exhale, start to slowly bring that leg back. You can bring the arms behind you. Bring them out to the side if it helps you to imagine yourself as a plane. Or you can bring them all the way out in front. Whatever feels good for you. This is not an easy pose. And then when you're ready, gently come on in. Shake the legs out. And that's it, guys. So those are some of the more common and basic poses that you'll find in any yoga class. So learn that terminology, learn the names for all of the poses, in the sun salutation, get very familiar with warrior 1, warrior 2, and warrior 3. And I promise all the other poses will come a lot easier to you. Again, if you have any questions, about how you're adjusting, or if you don't think you're doing a pose correctly or something doesn't feel quite right, please reach out to me. I love to talk to you guys and answer your emails and your text messages and all that stuff. And with that, feel free to share this video and let people know that they can log on to my website and give it a look and let me know what you think. And with that, I hope to see you soon. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about yoga and checking out my Yoga Body Blast program, then again, reach out and I'd definitely set you up with that. Bye guys, and namaste.